Ladies and gentlemen, I regret to inform you, the birth rate of the United States is cratering. And sure, it's not just us.
What we face is population collapse.
China's real population is not anywhere near 800 million.
Japan is facing a crisis it has never seen before. Population collapse.
Something genuinely unprecedented is currently taking place right now in South Korea. It's likely reached the lowest fertility rate ever measured by any society in all of human history.
But America? It's the only country I care about, so let's talk about it. First, to define the problem. The country needs a fertility rate of 2.1 children per woman in order to sustain its population. Below that, things start to shrink and eventually unravel. The US? We've been below that since 1972.
So, we're doomed.
And in contrast to countries like China, which is suffering because of its own dictatorial policies, or Japan, which has its fertility rate dropping because of their work and hyper-achievement culture, leaving little time or desire for children, the United States has been under replacement for almost half a century. Now, of course, an occasional dip wouldn't be a big deal, but being under replacement for this long is a recipe for cultural and societal disaster. Our population won't just shrink.
Soon, you will fade away into nothing.
It'll age, stall, and eventually collapse. And currently, as of this year, 2025, our fertility rate is 1.8, 3 points below where we should be. Researchers like Paul Ehrlich in the 1960s thought we had the opposite problem, with him writing the book The Population Bomb, which details the issues of overpopulation in the future. Well, as it turns out,
that did not happen at all.
But the question is, why? Is it because of the stress of endless wars, climate, COVID, chemicals in the water turning us all into career-seeking 9-to-5 automatons, replaceable widgets for the machine of capitalism? Well, I'll give you the statistics, present my case, and let you be the judge. Before I get into that, if you like this episode of Balance Takes, hit the subscribe button and help me get over that final hurdle to 1,000 subscribers so I can finally afford to pay my editors that monthly candy bar I promised them. Otherwise, I'll go back in time and make sure you are the 20th child.
I feel like you're missing something.
As stated earlier, a country needs a replacement rate of at least 2.1 births per woman, ignoring supplementation from immigrants, in order to continue to grow. It accounts for death, accidents, and the natural churn of a living society. And without it, we fade. Just think of it as a nice round statistical number to point at and say, hey, we need that many people born yearly or we're going to cease to exist in some semi-distant future.
Into nothing.
Now, for people who care about their country and their culture and want those things to persist, well, this future is really important. But in the US, for some reason, that future seems negotiable.
I just have other priorities right now, you know?
According to Pew Research, people are choosing not to have children because of career, the state of the world, climate, and the poor economy. But for simplicity's sake, I'm going to cannibalize about half this career number at 44% and throw it into that lack of affordability number and call it reason number one. Drum roll, please. The economy. Now, there's a whole bunch of reasons why people think the economy is one of their major reasons for not having children, like inflation raising the cost of living, the need for dual income households just to afford things, housing costs rising in suburban areas, and childcare just going through the roof. Add on top of that, healthcare costs and lack of financial security. Really, I could make a 20-minute video on just this alone. Not to mention having to go into the whole popular counter-argument of, Father, you can't blame the economy on why I don't have a brother or sister. The poor people, they have so many children. They're practically drowning in them. You've seen poor Belinda. She has 13. Yes, son. She does have a lot of children. They're practically raising themselves at this point. But you see, you have had the best tutors and will have access to the best universities. If your mother and I had children like Belinda, I shudder at the fact we would have lost so many opportunities. Why, we wouldn't be able to afford the house and the servants. And while I'm being silly about it, the way Americans ultimately think of having children isn't of continuing their progeny, but rather in terms of opportunity cost. The wife can't chase her dream job with a toddler on each hip, and the father can't afford a massive house for his hobbies. Not to mention, the price of children is just crazy, especially if you want to be a dual income household. So when people blame the economy, what they're really saying is that they aren't willing to lose the little pieces of the ideal future they had in mind just to raise children.
Thieves and ruffians.
Coming in at number 2, I'm going to say it, is abortion. Since Roe v. Wade, young women have been told that abortion is all about choice and freedom, but no one has taken the time to talk about the cost. Now, I'm not going to linger on this one too long. Trust me, this one deserves its own video as well, but let me show you some simple stats. Here are the number of abortions since Roe v. Wade, alongside the number of births, and here's the abortion rate since Roe v. Wade, alongside the birth rate. Now, imagine if all those lives had simply existed. If we simply assume that every abortion have been a live birth, not even counting those people growing up and also themselves having children. If you take just the abortion rate and magically turn them into births, we're above replacement, just like that. Now, no matter what your opinion is of abortion, is that culling of your own young good for our society? One can make any argument for or against abortion that they want, even getting into necessities of adoption or the tragedy of poverty. But the simple fact is that we have erased our own future, just sustain our present. And the worst part about it is we haven't done it out of malice. We've just done it out of sheer convenience. And I'm afraid our country will pay the price. Number 3, I've shown how the opportunity cost, disguised at what people call the economy, is a factor in lowering our birth rate, and I've shown how the math on abortion has erased our population. But here, in my opinion, is the primary reason the West is below replacement. And frankly, even though people don't cite it as a number 1, 2, or even 3 reason, I think it encompasses all of them put together.
The whole enchilada.
The primary reason why the West is below replacement is our culture. In fact, let me tell you a personal story. My mother gave up her career just to raise me. That's right, I was homeschooled, and a result of the greatest sacrifice and investment a woman can make, taking her time and putting it into her own children. And at the end of 20 or so years, she wanted to get back into the workforce and even get some low-end secretary or processing jobs, just to bring in a little side income. She went from job fair to job fair, and you know what happened? The men, and especially the women interviewing her, didn't see raising a child as marketable skill. They didn't see the sacrifice and labor necessary as worthwhile. And the women specifically would sneer at her skeptically, even go so far as to say that she's done nothing for 20 years, frustrated that she would even waste their time with an interview. And in the end, she gave up, realizing that if she wanted to get back to the workforce, she would have to start at the bottom all over again. And unfortunately, the sentiment starts when girls are young, with dozens of initiatives all but shoving young women into STEM and career fields, and it's worsened with the cost of living now, pressuring people into starting a career early, getting married late, and having a dual income, no kids family unit. And all this is solidified by our music and our movies, which encourage women to be boss babes or whatever.
It's true, I'm a woman who likes to manage things, but I wouldn't like to manage anything as disorderly as your household.
On top of that, a sky-high divorce rate encourages women to keep their job even after they're married, so that if, or in some cases when, they get divorced, they still have a career to fall back on.
I mean, who needs men anymore?
Any number of these issues, in my opinion, would be bad enough for the country, but altogether, it's clear we need a fundamental change in how we think about our future. A nation can't merely live for the now, but people can't merely live to accumulate things to ourselves and live out our favorite careers without having anyone left to experience them. Not only will life become increasingly lonely and disconnected, but at some point the economy, which partly is driven by a younger workforce coming in and filling the needed positions, will shrink and opportunities will dry up.
Because of you, I am now stuck in this frozen wasteland.
The very idea that we as Americans can do anything we want and anything we can put our mind to is ultimately the thing that's killing us. That career, that 40 to 60 hour work week, is not that special. It's not as unique or as amazing as our culture likes to glorify. Sure, for men, it's a necessity. Sometimes it's a privilege. But for women who have the ability to bring new life into the world, a career, it's honestly inferior. And I think it becomes obvious when you look at the difference between birth rates in religious and non-religious people. One set is riding just above replacement rate, and the other is desperately underwater and sinking. Religion gives focus, perspective to the wider world around us, and clarity to what is a moral good. And having children is a moral good. And unfortunately, our culture seems to have just thrown that away. But there is a bit of a silver lining.
What's the good news?
People who find career and consumerism as imperatives will gradually phase out on their own.
You don't have enough power to hold your own molecules together.
It's clear from the numbers, they can't sustain themselves. They're like a star burning through the last of its fuel before collapsing and becoming, well, something new. For those of you who are religious and pumping out those babies, good job, good on you. But those of you that have an ideal future, perhaps of the 3 cars, the career, the boat, and the big house, make a little room in there for something greater. Add a few children into that dream. Think of it as your patriotic duty, if you must.
Become a hero.
Even sprinkle in a little community and a little church in there as well, because those children will need friends, connection, truth, guidance as they grow up. Because as I said in my last video, what greater legacy is there in life than to leave behind a son or a daughter that is prepared for the world and ultimately greater than you? Because no nation, no country, no people can live forever in the now. No culture survives on self-interest alone. We can either build a future or erase it. There are only two choices, and that choice is yours. No matter how you look at it, we will be fine in the long run, because one way or another, the problem will resolve itself. Either we fix our birth rate problems, we get some focus, we get some perspective on life, and realize that things are just not that important, or the people that fail to understand that will fade away on their own. It's up to you, dear viewer. Do you want to be part of a dying star? A dying culture that is obsessed with itself? Or do you want to be part of a burgeoning future where we love our children and prepare them for the challenges ahead? But anyway, those are just my thoughts. What are yours? Let me know in the comment section down below your compliments or criticisms, and I'll see you again next time. Bye!